Because remember, ladies and gentlemen, men age like wine and women age like milk. Okay, I was scrolling social media and I saw some more of this relationship advice, and it made me think. There's no rule of thumb that applies to any group of individuals. Life is about choices. End of story. Now, you can make choices that make you end up aging like milk, or you can make choices that allow you to age like wine. Even though that wine theory seems to be a little unproven, because I've read, and I wish I had the sources with me, that sometimes wine goes flat in the bottle. If you open it between 10 and 15 years, you may be in for an unpleasant surprise, supposedly. After those 15 years pass, the flavor is supposed to wake back up, but how do you prove that? Anyway, I digress. What I want to say to anyone watching, whether you're male or female, is that in life you need to pick a worthy opponent, a worthy enemy. Some people call it a purpose. Some people call it a mission or a destiny in life. But the fact is, all of us face opposition of some kind. And the opposition that we face can give us rewards as we overcome that opposition. But we have to determine whether the rewards that the opposition holds is really worth the effort. Many of us have done a poor job of picking our opponents. I know me personally, I've been involved in skirmishes that didn't deserve the time of day as I look back in hindsight. But going forward, I've collected some opponents that I want to tackle for this second half of my life, if I'm fortunate enough to live that long. It's almost like that interview almost said Michael Jackson. But it's almost like that interview Mike Tyson did. And I'm not sure if it was on MSNBC or whatever. They were at his house and he had his WBA titles and WBC or whatever the letters are of the titles that he won. And the reporter said, look at all this stuff. I mean, you had a magnificent, glorious career. And based on the perspective that Mike Tyson had gained at that point, he looked at those title belts and said, I bled for garbage. You know, all this stuff, these accolades, these awards, they don't even matter. What matters is whether your kids are happy, whether your family's healthy. Those are the things that matter. These belts, these accolades, they mean nothing. Now, everything happens for a reason. Based on the life that Mike Tyson professed that he was living prior to his boxing career, who knows if a family would have even been in the cards for him. But you get what he's saying, that some of the fights that we go through in life really aren't worth our time because the rewards that they give us are empty. How many times have you pursued a goal and sacrificed and given your all only to get to the end of the road to feel empty? We all have. I know I'm basically in that circumstance right now where I look at the last 3 years and I think about all that I sacrificed, and I'm almost back at square one, which is distressing, depressing, disappointing. But even on the other end of the spectrum, it's exciting. There's positives in every negative, negatives in every positive. It just depends on which side you want to look at. But I wondered, if I had picked my opponent, if I had chosen my mission more wisely, would I have been further along my path than I am now? Really, only time will tell that. But I am here to tell you that it is imperative that we choose our opponents more wisely. We need to understand what the end goal is and what we want to achieve. My perspective has been changed over the last month and a half as far as the goals that I want to pursue. There's been a few things that have happened. I've rededicated myself to my health goals and fitness. And I was able to take some time off. I actually just returned from vacation where I saw some things that really put my mind in a different place. And that's where, as it stands today, December of 2025, I picked some new opponents. And they are as follows. In no particular order, but one of the opponents that I want to tackle in life, for however much time I have left, is I want to tackle time itself. You see, time is deceptive. Time convinces you that you have more of it than you really do, but it never tells you quite how much you have. So we live in this kind of void, this void of uncertainty where we can pursue a long-term pursuit, a long-term goal, a passion that requires discipline. But because we don't know if tomorrow's promised, it causes us to make decisions that may be more impulsive, that may be more aligned with an instant gratification. And we all know that over the long haul, too many choices that satisfy our need for instant gratification can really derail us, throw us off track. But if I have a limited amount of time on this earth, why should I spend all of it disciplining myself, making myself suffer? So for me, regardless of how much time I have, my goal is to, one, pursue goals that are worthy and lofty, and two, regardless of how much time I have left, my goal is to make the most of the present moment. You see, time has its minions, the past. You regret actions from the past. You feel like your past doesn't allow you to achieve certain positions. And then there's the future. And you think about the future and you worry about it. And you travel along your path and you try and cross bridges that you haven't come to yet. And either way, it destroys your momentum in that present moment. So, one of my opponents, the first opponent, is to overcome my relationship with time. The second opponent for me is my relationship with gravity. Not only gravity as far as the physical force, the force that made that apple fall on Sir Isaac Newton's head and made him think to himself, what the was that? But also situations that we have in life, they have a certain gravity to them. You know, people will make phrases, they'll make statements, they'll say, you don't understand the gravity of the situation. Which is cool, but in the grand scheme of things, outside of death, what situations do we encounter that are really that serious? I honestly can't think of any. But I honestly can say that over the years, I've spent a lot of time giving too much time, attention, energy to situations that in the grand scheme of things, in the long haul, were not as serious as I initially thought. But even with the force of gravity, when I was on vacation, I saw a lot of people who had made certain choices in life. Obviously, I don't want to talk about people's health, but I saw people that seemed like when they reached a certain age, they had issues with mobility. And for me, my fight against gravity is to be able to go out in this world, whenever that day comes, on my feet. Yeah, I may need a staff. A staff may fit me based on the wisdom that I'll acquire. It'll be almost like the staff of Moses or something that I can walk with. But overall, I want to go out of this thing on my feet and not on a scooter. And I don't say that to offend anybody who may be watching. I only say that because I see that gravity has defeated a lot of people and put them in positions that they would probably rather not be in. And going forward, Lord willing, if I make the right decisions, hopefully I can withstand gravity. I can stand tall no matter what age I reach, basically. And my last obstacle, my last opponent, my last enemy that I want to really face up to and conquer in this lifetime is stress. Stress, as you know, is what they call the silent killer. It's important to get a grasp on stress. I read a lot of material from the East, Buddhists and things like that, where they talk about how basically your breathing is a good release valve for stress. And us in the Western world, for whatever reason, we are shallow breathers. I guess that's why when people go running, they can achieve what's called a runner's high. Because just taking in a deep breath releases endorphins and all this good stuff, the scientific stuff that is beneficial to our mind state and our physical bodies. For me, I've been under a lot of stress unduly. Sometimes because of the combination of the time and the gravity of the situations I find myself in, it creates a powder keg of stress that gets me in a bad place for a while. But I can say now that it's an area of focus for me. You know, up to this point, my priorities, in my opinion, were in the wrong place. But now my priorities are more about longevity. They're more about not doing work that satisfies needs here in the moment, such as working for a paycheck this week or this month or even this year. I want to pursue goals and work that will outlive me. You know, before Jesus returns, or before the sun decides to burn out, or before the meteor hits the earth, whatever is going to happen, which would hopefully be long after I'm off of this plane, the work that I do will survive as long as there's an audience or there's a need for it. I don't necessarily want to do stuff that satisfies such a temporary need. I want my work to be timeless, and that's the goal that I have. Well, yeah, those are my opponents, and that's going to be my focus going forward. We're at the end of 2025. I want to grow my YouTube channel, so I'm trying to get some momentum, get these thoughts out of my head onto the camera, get these videos published, and move on to the next thing and continue the process. And in 2026, I'm expecting big things to happen. Obviously, you can't force it, but I feel like if you do the work, the results will follow. If you feel inclined, like the video, drop me a comment, subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you in the next video.